But absolutely brilliant, and I'm sure people are really buzzing with questions and thoughts, and just thinking about how do we use this. So the next session is really for you to gather and think about that. I'm just going to put into, if I can.
Please do pop your links into the Jamboard. We'd like to hear what you're saying. So it's great to see, first of all, that somebody has put that LfS is not an add-on. I think that's a really, really pertinent point. It's a holistic approach. It's not a timetabled subject for a particular group of pupils or a particular discipline. It's that idea, as we've heard already, that it's an ethos that you weave across your practice and the wider life of your setting and the community around it. So I think that's a really, really valuable point. Someone has said that we should be embedding it and making sure that it underlies all learning, which I think is absolutely crucial. It's this idea of it being part of the experience for all our young people, not that partial approach where your experience of LfS depends, particularly in a secondary school, on your subject choices. Building coherent links, absolutely crucial as well, this idea of meaning and relevance. So there's not this sort of tokenistic approach whereby LfS is seen as an add-on. And I think that point somebody has made about us leading by example. Absolutely, this goes back to what Jack was saying about LfS being a core part of becoming, being and growing as a teacher in Scotland. And I think the other point there under the first context there is that it's the responsibility of all, but I think it's important to highlight what staff are currently doing already. That's such a pertinent point, that we are not starting from blank slates here. We are all delivering LfS to some extent in our practice and our settings, and having the opportunity to celebrate and to share that, I think, is absolutely crucial, because there's so much going on already. So we're starting to get a couple of questions here. So the first one is for David. David, what do you see as being the impact of the new LfS action plan on your vision for LfS?
I think having attended a couple of government sessions looking at the Children's Parliament report, looking at the University of Dundee report, I think that gives us the direction of travel that the action plan will go in. I think I know Betsy's smiling. We've seen early drafts of the action plan, and we've made our comments on it, and we've made our comments known on it. So I think having a strong action plan is a really good starting point, and I think that's what we're hoping for, that the action plan is a really strong place to start. What we will do in Dumfries and Galloway when that action plan comes in is obviously refresh our own documentation, because it's based on the previous action plan. But hopefully, if we're getting things right down here in D&G, then hopefully we are on the right path with it, and we continue our journey. From looking at the Children's Parliament report, from looking at the University of Dundee report, I certainly think we are on the right path with what we're trying to do. For us in Dumfries and Galloway, one of our big next steps is to engage with that voice of children and young people. We have started to engage. We're very much engaged with our communities. We've very much engaged with our partners. We've got those groups set up. We've got practitioner groups set up, climate champion groups, etc., etc. So we've done that work with the adults, but we are very aware that we haven't yet done that work with our children and young people. Some of that is because of COVID, and some of that's about leaving schools to themselves at the minute till we get through some of that. But certainly our next stage next year is to engage more with that voice of children and more of that voice of young people in what we do, because that's the bit that's missing from our landscape at the minute. And it's that bit, you practice what you preach, and that's the bit that we've not done yet. But for me, that's what I'm hoping to take from any updated action plan, is that we do more and we take forward more work with our children and young people ourselves to direct that change and that policy and procedure stuff that we work on at local authority levels.
Great, thanks so much, David. And I guess there's a couple of other things here that I might actually ask of you as well. So the first is, again, it's a local authority related question, which says that LfS needs to be prioritised, and I feel that this is not the case at the moment. How do we do this at authority level?
I think perhaps we're fortunate within D&G that you know, we do have a strategic lead for that. So someone, you know, at my level within our directorate is leading on it. We do have that drive as well. Part of our drive for that came from our elected members. Certainly our previous chairs and vice chairs of Education Learning Committee were very keen that we took. For me, it's you build on what you've got. You know, where are the doors open? And just push those doors open a little bit more. So who within your directorate currently has this on their remit? If it's not on somebody's remit, how can we ask to get to that stage? Who within your local authority are the current advocates for learning for sustainability? Perhaps you've got someone within your local authority that's sitting on some of the national groups that I sit on. You know, there are Education Scotland network meetings for LfS leads. There are Scottish network meetings for those who are leading rights respecting schools. So there are networks there. It's about maybe finding who your local authority leads are. I know within our own local authority, some of the work will be being taken forward at RIC level, as maybe our RIC takes on some of this work as well, and some of this sits at a plan at RIC level rather than at individual local authority level. So yeah, in summary, it's about pushing that open door. Where are the keen beans? Where are those voices that want to be heard on this? And how do you work with them to facilitate that change and take that change forward?
Fantastic, that's great. So there's another question here around, is there an LfS action plan template for schools? And I suppose there's a kind of a sort of different ways of looking at this. So yeah. Action plan templates, what are your thoughts on that, David?
We created our Dumfries and Galloway action plan based on the 2030 action plan that's currently live. You know, the current plan, what we will do is we will base our updated action plan on the updated action plan when it comes out. So there are templates there to follow. The other place I would take you to is Education Scotland's self-evaluation document, because at the end of that self-evaluation document there is a planning template. There's a planning template about you know, where we are, how do we know, and where do we want to go next. So there is a national template there within that LfS action plan. I think also seeing that this whole theme, Kirsten, is based around school improvement planning. Each local authority and each school will have their own planning template. That might be a good place to start as well, because if I know each local authority's planning templates are slightly different, but if you're being asked to produce an action plan, my advice would be not to produce something that's completely different from a plan that is easily copied and pasted into a different format. So depending on your local authority, look at your local authority action plan, look at the action plan, and look at the Scottish Government action plan, and take the format that suits you best in your context.
Fantastic, that's great. So I think we've got room for just one more question. We're at 5 o'clock, but we maybe just pop into this last question, which is about ideas for getting pupils to feel that they can affect change. As you said earlier, David, PISA has highlighted that this is something that we're not so good at. Our young people don't have that sense of agency or confidence, perhaps. So a couple of thoughts on that.
Yeah. One of the slides I took out, Kirsten, because my presentation was too long when I worked on it last week, one of the slides I took out was a screenshot of the rights respecting schools criteria, and I focused on strand C of the rights respecting schools criteria, because rights respecting schools strand C talks about learner voice and participation. And for us in Dumfries and Galloway, it's the aspiration that all schools in Dumfries and Galloway will be engaged in the Rights Respecting Schools programme, and that all schools will reach silver level within the 3 years of Scottish Government funding. So we've told schools that's our aspiration in D&G. So had this been a D&G audience, I would be spending a bit of time looking at strand C of the Rights Respecting Schools Award, because it's there silver school looks like and what a gold school looks like within strand C. And I know that, not advocating rights respecting schools training, but I know that rights respecting schools on their website offer all schools in Scotland some free training, and that training is around learner voice and strengthening learner participation. So I think there's a good place to start there. That training looks at Roger Hart's ladder of participation. it looks at the Lundy model of participation, and it looks at one other one, which, apologies, I can't remember the third one, but it looks at different models of participation and which one you might be keen on. We have within Dumfries and Galloway, within our Dumfries and Galloway strategy, focused on Roger Hart's ladder of participation, and we've done that because that's within our youth work strategy, and that's within our wider council youth strategy. So we've agreed within, or we focused within education and learning on Roger Hart's ladder because it matches up with other aspects of the council. But I know other local authorities look at the Lundy model, and that what the Rights Respecting Schools training does, and I'm sure other schools do it as well, is explore those different models and explore how you can engage children and young people in that learner voice. And as I say, that's our next step. That's what we want to do further into next school session.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, David, and thank you so much to everyone who's contributed to the Jamboard. And we've got some other things on there around, you know, the need for examples and exemplification of how it's actually being done in schools, and that's something that we can certainly look at taking forward and sharing more widely. So I'm going to very quickly go back to our main presentation, and Betsy, I'm going to hand back to you to take us to the last part of today, if that's okay.
Thanks very much, Kirsten, and I'm aware that we've really gone over time, but I would just like to thank everyone for their inputs this afternoon, and particularly David for giving such an inspiring input about how really to do this on the ground. I think that it's the start of discussions. The Learning for Sustainability Action Plan is not out yet, but that we hope will help take things forward too. We really have valued your participation this afternoon. Everyone, thank you very much for coming and joining us today. We would love your input to help us shape future drop-ins. If you click on the Jamboard link on the screen and have any ideas as to what you'd like to see in future, then drop them onto that Jamboard, or just drop us an email and tell us what you would like more of. These sessions really are for you. The next one is on the 27th of April, and we're hoping then to focus on the outcomes of the national discussion on education and how Learning for Sustainability links in with that. But please, you know, do get in touch with us. We hope you join us for the next session, and good evening. Have a lovely evening, all of you. Thank you.